Toxic people don't just appear in your life suddenly, they follow a pattern. And if you don't recognize that pattern early, you risk being caught in a cycle of manipulation, guilt, and emotional exhaustion. Identifying the pattern is the first and most crucial step in handling them without losing your peace. A toxic person doesn't necessarily come across as destructive at first. In fact, many of them are quite charming. They can be engaging, charismatic, even seemingly kind, but over time, the cracks begin to show. Maybe it's their inability to take responsibility for anything. Maybe it's the way they subtly undermine you while disguising it as concern. Or maybe it's how they make every situation about them, turning even your struggles into their drama. One of the most important things to understand is that toxic people operate in cycles. It starts with idealization. They put on their best face. They make you feel valued, appreciated, perhaps even admired. This is how they gain your trust. But once they feel secure in their position, the behavior begins to shift. The second phase is erosion. You'll notice small things at first, backhanded compliments, passive-aggressive remarks, or a tendency to twist conversations in ways that leave you feeling guilty or uncertain. You might start questioning yourself, did I overreact? Am I being too sensitive? Maybe I should just let it go? That self-doubt is exactly what they want. It allows them to push the boundaries further, making you more susceptible to their control. Over time, the toxicity escalates. They become more demanding, more unpredictable, more emotionally volatile. They may play the victim constantly, making you feel responsible for their problems. Or they may become outright aggressive, using intimidation, guilt, or even silent treatment to manipulate you. And then comes the final stage, the reset. This is where they suddenly switch back to being kind, apologetic, or even affectionate. They may acknowledge their behavior, but only just enough to keep you from walking away. They promise change. They offer moments of clarity, glimpses of who they were in the beginning, and for a while it seems like maybe things will be different, but they never are. This cycle can repeat endlessly if you don't recognize it for what it is. The reason many people struggle to escape toxic relationships, whether personal, professional, or even family, is because they keep hoping for the person to change. They latch onto those moments of kindness, mistaking them for genuine transformation rather than part of the cycle itself. The key to protecting yourself is to trust patterns, not promises. If someone consistently makes you feel drained, anxious, or guilty, you need to acknowledge that it's not a coincidence. You're not imagining it. It's a pattern, and it won't stop unless you make the decision to remove yourself from it. Pay attention to how you feel around certain people. Do you feel a sense of peace, or do you feel like you're walking on eggshells? Do they support you, or do they subtly belittle you? Do they respect your boundaries, or do they test them every chance they get? These are the questions that will reveal whether or not you're dealing with toxicity. The truth is, toxic people don't just control through direct confrontation. They manipulate through subtlety. That's why identifying the pattern is crucial. It allows you to step back and see their behavior objectively rather than getting lost in their emotional games. It gives you the power to make decisions based on logic rather than being pulled into a cycle that only serves their needs at the cost of your own well-being. Once you recognize the pattern, the next step is learning how to break free from it. That requires boundaries, emotional detachment, and ultimately the willingness to walk away when necessary. But none of that is possible if you don't first train yourself to see the pattern for what it is, a calculated strategy designed to keep you entangled. Don't let yourself become ensnared. Recognize the signs early. Trust what your intuition tells you. And most importantly, remember that your peace is worth protecting. Because the longer you allow toxic people to remain in your life, the more they will take from you. And if you're not careful, one day you'll wake up realizing that you've spent years managing their chaos instead of building your own life. Toxic people thrive on chaos. They create confusion, distort reality, and pull you into endless battles that serve no real purpose other than to drain your energy. If you attempt to reason with them, you'll quickly find that logic, fairness, and mutual understanding are not their goals. They aren't interested in resolving conflicts in a healthy way. Instead, they want control. They want to keep you engaged in their drama because that's how they maintain their power. The moment you recognize this, you have a choice. Either continue negotiating with their chaos or step away from the game entirely. One of the biggest mistakes people make when dealing with toxic individuals is believing that if they can just explain things clearly enough, the other person will finally understand. They think that if they remain patient, if they provide enough evidence, if they prove their good intentions, then surely the toxic person will see reason. But that's not how it works. Toxic individuals are not operating on the same principles as you. They don't care about truth. They care about winning. They don't care about fairness. They care about control. And every time you engage, you give them what they want: your attention, your energy, your emotional investment. Toxic people are masters of manipulation. They use a variety of tactics to keep you hooked into their chaos. They may gaslight you, making you doubt your own reality. They may shift blame, turning every conversation into a situation where you are somehow at fault. They may provoke you with insults, passive aggression, or guilt tripping. And the moment you react, they play the victim. The cycle continues because you feel the need to defend yourself, to set the record straight, to make them see the truth. But you must understand, you're negotiating with someone who has no interest in truth. At some point, you have to stop engaging in battles that cannot be won. This doesn't mean you tolerate their behavior. It means you refuse to participate in their destructive games. The key is to recognize when a conversation is no longer productive and to remove yourself from it. If someone constantly twists your words, refuses to take responsibility, or escalates conflicts instead of resolving them, you must learn to disengage. There is no obligation to keep proving yourself to someone committed to misunderstanding you. Disengaging from chaos requires setting firm boundaries, not just with the toxic person, but with yourself. You must decide in advance what you will and will not tolerate. If someone is constantly stirring up drama, you don't have to respond. If they send inflammatory messages, you don't have to reply. If they bait you with accusations, you don't have to take the bait. This is not about being passive. It's about being strategic. Every time you refuse to engage, you take back your power. Some people fear that disengaging makes them appear weak. But in reality, it is one of the strongest things you can do. It takes tremendous discipline to walk away from a fight when every part of you wants to defend yourself. But you must ask yourself, what is your goal? If your goal is peace, then you cannot keep stepping into battles that only lead to more destruction. If your goal is clarity, then you cannot keep entertaining conversations designed to confuse you. The truth is, some people are addicted to conflict. They thrive on chaos because it gives them a sense of control. The more you fight with them, the more you fuel their dysfunction. The only way to win is to stop playing. When you refuse to negotiate with chaos, you force them to either find someone else to manipulate or to face the emptiness of their own dysfunction. It's important to understand that walking away does not mean you are giving up. It means you are choosing your well-being over endless, pointless battles. It means you are prioritizing your sanity over proving a point to someone who isn't listening. And most of all, it means you are reclaiming your life. Because the more you engage with chaos, the more it consumes you. The moment you stop negotiating with it, you create space for peace, clarity, and freedom. Emotional detachment is one of the most powerful skills you can develop when dealing with toxic people. It doesn't mean shutting down your emotions entirely or becoming cold and indifferent. Instead, it means maintaining control over your reactions, refusing to let someone else dictate your mental state, and preserving your inner peace despite external chaos. Toxic individuals thrive on provoking emotional responses. They manipulate, guilt trip, and create drama to keep you engaged. But the moment you learn to detach emotionally, their power over you disappears. The first step to mastering emotional detachment is recognizing how toxic people hook you in. They do this by playing on your emotions, whether through guilt, anger, or even sympathy. They might frame themselves as victims to make you feel responsible for their well-being. They might provoke you with passive aggression or blatant insults, hoping you'll react so they can shift blame onto you. Or they might create unnecessary conflicts just to keep you emotionally invested in their chaos. And if you're not careful, you'll find yourself reacting automatically, caught in their web of manipulation before you even realize what's happening. Emotional detachment starts with awareness. Pay attention to how you feel when interacting with certain individuals. Do you find yourself feeling drained, anxious, or constantly on edge? Do you notice patterns where they stir up drama and leave you to deal with the emotional fallout? If so, you need to make a conscious decision to stop allowing them to control your emotions. This doesn't mean ignoring your feelings, it means observing them without immediately reacting. Instead of getting sucked into their game, step back and ask yourself, is this worth my energy? Do I need to respond, or am I just being baited into an unnecessary conflict? One of the best ways to practice emotional detachment is by maintaining a mental and emotional buffer. Imagine a glass wall between you and the toxic person. You can see and hear them, but their words and actions do not penetrate your inner peace. You remain in control, choosing when and how to respond, if at all. When they attempt to provoke you, remind yourself, this is their behavior, not mine. Their emotions belong to them, not me. This small shift in perspective prevents their negativity from latching onto you. Another essential aspect of emotional detachment is refusing to take things personally. Toxic individuals project their insecurities, fears, and frustrations onto others. They may insult, criticize, or try to undermine you, but their words are a reflection of their inner turmoil, not your worth. The moment you internalize their negativity, you give them control over your emotional state. But if you remind yourself that their words and actions are about them, not you, it becomes much easier to remain unaffected. Setting boundaries is also crucial. Emotional detachment doesn't mean tolerating disrespect or mistreatment. It means deciding what you will and will not engage with. If someone consistently drains your energy, limit your interactions with them. If they try to start unnecessary arguments, refuse to engage. If they guilt trip you, recognize it for what it is and don't allow it to influence your decisions. Your boundaries act as a protective shield, keeping their chaos from infiltrating your mind. Practicing emotional detachment also requires shifting your mindset about control. Many people believe that if they can just say the right thing, explain themselves well enough, or prove their point, they can change a toxic person's behavior. But the truth is, you cannot control anyone except yourself. The sooner you accept that, the freer you become. You are not responsible for fixing toxic people, making them see reason, or helping them change. That is their job, not yours. Your job is to protect your peace, your energy, and your well-being. Meditation, mindfulness, and deep breathing exercises can help reinforce emotional detachment. These practices train you to observe your thoughts and emotions without being controlled by them. When you become more mindful, you develop the ability to pause before reacting, making it easier to respond with logic rather than emotion. Even something as simple as taking a deep breath before responding to a toxic person can make a significant difference. Ultimately, emotional detachment is about reclaiming your power. Toxic people rely on your emotional investment to keep you entangled in their dysfunction. The more reactive you are, the easier you are to manipulate. But the moment you step back, observe without reacting, and refuse to be drawn into their chaos, they lose control over you. You become unshakable, immune to their attempts to disturb your peace. And that is when you truly win, not by defeating them in an argument, but by refusing to let them influence your life at all. One of the biggest traps people fall into when dealing with toxic individuals is the urge to fix them. This often comes from a place of empathy, kindness, or even personal responsibility. You see someone struggling, behaving destructively, or repeating harmful patterns, and you believe that if you just provide the right support, if you just say the right words, if you just love them enough, they will change. But this belief is not only false, it is dangerous. The reality is that you cannot fix someone who doesn't want to be fixed. Toxic people do not change simply because you offer them help, logic, or love. In many cases, they don't even see their behavior as a problem. They manipulate, control, or play the victim, not because they are unaware of their actions, but because it serves them in some way. When you take on the role of the fixer, you are not helping them. You are enabling them. Toxic people often seek out fixers because they provide an endless source of attention, emotional labor, and forgiveness. They know that a fixer will overlook red flags, excuse bad behavior, and continue trying, no matter how many times they are hurt in the process. They thrive on your belief that they just need one more chance, one more conversation, one more effort, when in reality, no amount of fixing will change them unless they decide to change themselves. Playing the fixer is exhausting. It places the weight of another person's dysfunction on your shoulders, making you responsible for their emotions, their actions, and even their consequences. You might find yourself justifying their behavior, saying things like, "They had a hard childhood, they're under a lot of stress, they don't mean to act this way." While understanding someone's pain is compassionate, it does not excuse mistreatment. You can acknowledge why someone is the way they are without making it your responsibility to save them. The more you try to fix a toxic person, the more they will drain you. They will take and take, offering temporary moments of improvement just to keep you invested. But the cycle will always repeat. You will find yourself constantly managing their emotions, soothing their outbursts, cleaning up their messes, and making sacrifices for the sake of maintaining peace. And yet, no matter how much you give, it will never be enough. One of the hardest truths to accept is that some people do not want to be helped. They may claim they do, but their actions tell a different story. They resist change, sabotage progress, or even become resentful when you try to guide them in a better direction. That is because change requires accountability. And accountability threatens their ability to manipulate and control. Letting go of the fixer mentality means recognizing that you are not responsible for anyone else's personal growth. Your job is not to carry someone else's burdens at the expense of your own well-being. It is not your duty to heal wounds that they refuse to acknowledge or to teach lessons they refuse to learn. Real change only happens when a person takes responsibility for their own actions and commits to doing the work themselves. Until then, no amount of fixing will make a difference. This does not mean you have to be cruel or indifferent. You can care about someone and still set boundaries. You can wish them well without sacrificing yourself. The key is to shift your focus from trying to fix them to protecting your own peace. Instead of asking, "How can I change them?" start asking, "How can I take care of myself?" If a relationship is built on dysfunction, your priority should be limiting your exposure, not solving their problem. Breaking free from the fixer role requires self-awareness. Ask yourself, why do I feel the need to fix this person? Do I believe my worth is tied to how much I help others? Am I afraid of what will happen if I let go? Many fixers have a deep-seated belief that if they don't hold everything together, everything will fall apart. But here's the truth. If a relationship requires you to constantly fix, manage, or rescue someone, it was broken to begin with. You were never meant to carry that weight. At the end of the day, you have to accept that you cannot save someone who does not want to be saved. You can't force growth. You can't pour endless energy into someone who only drains you in return. The most powerful thing you can do is step back, let them face the consequences of their own actions, and choose to prioritize yourself. Because when you stop playing the fixer, you reclaim your peace, your energy, and your life. Setting boundaries is one of the most powerful things you can do to protect your mental and emotional well-being. Yet many people struggle with this because they fear conflict, rejection, or being seen as unkind. They set weak or inconsistent boundaries, allowing toxic individuals to push past them repeatedly. But real boundaries, the kind that actually mean something, are not just words. They are firm, non-negotiable lines backed by action. A boundary is not a request for someone to change. It is a statement of what you will and will not tolerate. It is not about controlling another person's behavior, but about controlling your own response. When you say, "I won't tolerate disrespect," that's not a boundary unless it's followed by action. What will you do when someone disrespects you? Will you walk away? Will you end the conversation? A boundary without consequences is just an empty statement, and toxic people thrive on testing empty statements. Toxic individuals do not respect weak or inconsistent boundaries. They push against limits, searching for cracks in your resolve. If you say, "I won't answer late-night calls," but then you pick up after enough persistence, they learn that your words mean nothing. If you say, "I won't tolerate insults," but then you stay in the conversation after being insulted, they see that you are willing to endure mistreatment. A boundary only has meaning when it is upheld with unwavering consistency. To set boundaries that truly mean something, you must first get clear on what you need. Ask yourself, what behaviors drain me? What interactions make me feel disrespected? What situations leave me feeling used or manipulated? Once you identify these patterns, you can establish clear, firm boundaries around them. The clearer you are, the easier it will be to enforce them. Instead of saying, "I need more respect," say, "If you raise your voice at me, I will leave the conversation." Instead of saying, "I need space," say, "I will not respond to messages outside of work hours." Specific boundaries are easier to uphold because there is no room for interpretation. The hardest part of setting boundaries is enforcing them. When you begin to assert yourself, toxic people will test you. They may guilt trip you, calling you selfish or uncaring. They may try to wear you down through persistence, pushing to see if you will bend. They may even lash out in anger, accusing you of changing or abandoning them. This is where most people break, because they feel uncomfortable. But boundaries are not about comfort, they are about protection. If you let your discomfort override your need for peace, you will always be controlled by others' reactions. It is crucial to stand firm. The first time you enforce a boundary, it may feel difficult, even painful. You may feel guilt, especially if the toxic person is someone close to you. But every time you hold the line, it gets easier. You train yourself to value your own well-being over someone else's demands. You also send a clear message, "I mean what I say." Over time, people learn that pushing your limits has consequences. Those who respect you will adjust. Those who don't may leave, and that is a blessing. A strong boundary also requires emotional detachment. When you set a limit, do not expect toxic individuals to understand or respect it. Expect resistance. Expect manipulation. But also understand that their reaction is not your responsibility. You do not owe them endless explanations or justifications. A simple, firm response is enough. "This is what I need. If you cannot respect it, I will remove myself." The more you engage in debates, the more you give them room to challenge your boundaries. Some people fear setting boundaries because they worry about losing relationships. But any relationship that requires you to sacrifice your peace, self-respect, or mental health is not worth preserving. A healthy relationship is built on mutual respect, not one-sided sacrifice. If setting a boundary causes someone to walk away, it only reveals that they were benefiting from your lack of limits. Let them go. Boundaries are a form of self-respect. They signal to the world that you value yourself enough to protect your energy. They are not selfish. They are necessary. The more you enforce them, the more you attract people who respect you and repel those who seek to take advantage. But above all, boundaries give you freedom. The freedom to live without constantly being pulled into someone else's chaos, without feeling obligated to meet demands that drain you, and without negotiating your peace for the sake of keeping the wrong people comfortable. So, set boundaries that mean something. Make them clear, enforce them consistently, and never apologize for protecting your own well-being. Walking away is one of the most difficult yet powerful decisions you can make when dealing with toxic people and unhealthy situations. Many struggle with this because they feel obligated to stay, whether out of guilt, loyalty, fear, or the hope that things will change. But the truth is, not every relationship, argument, or situation is worth your time, energy, or peace. There comes a point when staying only drains you, and the best thing you can do for yourself is to walk away. The biggest mistake people make is believing that if they just try harder, explain themselves better, or remain patient, the toxic person will eventually change. But that rarely happens. Toxic individuals thrive on control, manipulation, and drama. They don't engage in conflicts to resolve them. They engage to keep you emotionally entangled. Every time you argue, defend yourself, or try to make them see reason, you are giving them exactly what they want, your attention and energy. Walking away is not weakness. It is refusing to participate in a game where the rules are designed to keep you losing. Many people stay in toxic situations because of fear. Fear of the unknown, fear of loneliness, fear of what will happen if they leave. But fear is not a good enough reason to stay in something that is destroying you. What you have to understand is that leaving is not the hardest part. Staying in an unhealthy situation that drains you day after day is far harder. When you finally walk away, you realize that what you were holding on to was only holding you back. Walking away does not mean you are giving up. It means you are choosing yourself. It means you are recognizing that you cannot fix someone who refuses to change. It means you are refusing to negotiate with people who disrespect you. It means you are prioritizing your own well-being over the illusion of a relationship, job, or situation that is doing more harm than good. There is immense power in realizing that you do not have to stay where you are not valued, respected, or at peace. One of the most important lessons in life is knowing when to fight and when to walk away. Some battles are worth fighting, ones that lead to growth, resolution, and improvement. But many battles are simply traps designed to keep you stuck. Toxic people will bait you into arguments, provoke you into reacting, and guilt trip you into staying. They will use manipulation, anger, or even moments of kindness to keep you hooked. But once you recognize the cycle, you have a choice. Continue playing their game or walk away and take back your power. Walking away is not just about removing yourself physically, it is about detaching emotionally. You may still have to interact with a toxic coworker, family member, or acquaintance, but that does not mean you have to invest in them emotionally. You do not have to argue, prove your point, or seek closure from someone who will never give it to you. True freedom comes when you stop seeking validation from those who do not deserve it. Many people hesitate to walk away because they think they need a dramatic final confrontation, a perfect explanation, or permission from others. But you do not owe anyone an argument, an explanation, or a justification for prioritizing your peace. Sometimes the best response is silence. The strongest move is to leave without engaging in a final battle. Toxic people expect a reaction. When you refuse to give them one, you deny them the power they seek. Another reason people struggle to walk away is the belief that they have invested too much to leave now. This is known as the sunk cost fallacy, the idea that because you have already put in time, effort, or love, you must stay to make it worth it. But if something is draining you, it is not an investment, it is a loss. Walking away is not losing, it is cutting your losses before they become greater. Walking away is an act of self-respect. It is choosing to step out of cycles that no longer serve you. It is acknowledging that peace is more valuable than proving a point. It is the realization that you do not have to fight every battle, attend every argument, or explain yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. The moment you understand this, you become untouchable. You deserve to be in environments that bring you peace, not ones that exhaust you. You deserve relationships that uplift you, not ones that drain you. You deserve to live a life where you are not constantly fighting to be heard, seen, or respected. And sometimes the only way to achieve that is to walk away when necessary.